Welcome back to Paul's Tech News. It is good to be back, my friends, bringing you the tech news, summing up the entirety of the past week's PC hardware triumphs and fiascos, and maintaining a casual yet aloof perspective so we can easily switch between the biting sarcasm and the hardcore roasting that some tech companies bring upon themselves with their shenanigans and skullduggery. And it appears that I have returned from my travel break just in time, as things are not all fine and dandy in GPU land these days, with sales hitting lows not seen in decades, whilst Nvidia and AMD continue to launch new products. New Intel and AMD CPUs are anticipated later this year, and so rumors are flowing already, and Reddit is continuing the 2023 trend of flushing a popular social media site's credibility down the toilet due to the ineffable machinations of the company CEO. Oh, what's that? Oh, he's doing it to make money. Oh, well, that's actually quite effable. In fact, I'll F that right now. It's time for tech news. Excellent! Today's video is brought to you by Micro Center. This is one of my favorite places to buy PC parts. So if you're building or upgrading your PC, I highly recommend making your way down to one of their 25 retail stores in the US. They have consistently competitive prices and an excellent selection of PC hardware and other tech goodies. And they have a custom PC builder on the Micro Center website. Use it to spec out your rig and it will show you parts in store at your nearest location while ensuring compatibility. Then you can pick up in store or have their pros assemble it for you. So click the sponsor link in the description to find a Micro Center near you. John Petty Research confirmed last week what many PC gamers already know in their hearts. The GPU market sucks, and with only 6.3 million units sold in Q1 2023, they are at their lowest point in over a decade, or at least since 2005, which is as far back as these charts actually go. That's 12.6% down versus Q4 2022 and 38.2% down year over year, so naturally a great council was convened in the wake of this slow motion catastrophe, where Jensen, Lisa, and Pat spent days debating and poring over ways they might correct this trend and win PC gamers back with sensible GPU deals, next-gen hardware that far surpasses the previous gen at reduced prices, and a commitment to work with game developers so titles can be launched in a polished and completed state instead of only being stable after weeks of patching and bug fixes. I'm just kidding, they don't care about PC gamers. It's all about AI hardware now. Nvidia is already there. AMD is getting into it too. They've already got buyers lined up and stock prices are skyrocketing. Doesn't that make you happy, PC gamers? AMD and Nvidia stock do good? I mean, sure, you might not have money to buy a new video card, but don't worry. AMD and Nvidia can still sell their GPUs to Amazon and all those other VC-funded AI startups, and we can rest easy knowing the shareholders have been appeased after our early bedtime because there was no PC gaming to keep us up all night. Poor GPU sales be damned though, Nvidia and AMD still plan to launch new video cards, and Nvidia has even bumped up the launch of their upcoming RTX 4060 to late June. The 29th specifically, according to their Wednesday tweet, and videocards.com says reviews will go up one day before that. Now, the RTX 4060 might have some appeal as it's a $300 MSRP card, but early specs indicate that a repeat of the 4060 Ti launch last month is likely in order. With a 128-bit memory bus and only 3072 CUDA cores, the 4060 non-Ti might barely surpass the last-gen RTX 3060 in performance, while also having 8 gigs of VRAM instead of 12, and less memory bandwidth. Isn't it great how we all benefit from these continued advances in technology? Now, the silver lining to that GPU story is perhaps that Intel is steadily gaining ground versus AMD and Nvidia. They're up to 4% market share, and that's not bad for the fledgling discrete GPU manufacturer. Intel also makes CPUs though, didn't you know? And questions about what's next with Intel's CPU plans are slowly being answered. We already knew that Intel would be removing their eyes with the launch of Meteor Lake, but still sticking with the 3579 nomenclature and adding Ultra to the most fast and expensive ones. But at Computex, we also saw new Z790 motherboards that are slated to launch around September, and one couldn't help but wonder what CPUs might launch alongside those new boards. Well, if this info surfaced by Twitter demigod Harukaze5719 is accurate, and how could it not be since it was pulled from a Bilibili video posted by Golden Pig Upgrade, it seems that desktop users are in for a Raptor Lake refresh that will be dubbed 14th generation core and still use the old nomenclature with the eyes intact. Now, a refresh happens when a company like Intel wants to launch something new, but all they have is their old stuff. So they give their old CPUs a different name, as if they were new, and increase all their clock speeds by 100 megahertz or so, which tricks tech-illiterate Costco shoppers into paying top dollar for CPU architecture that technically launched a year plus ago. With the new naming scheme they have planned, they can start fresh and avoid confusion, though. Core and Core Ultra CPUs without the I will be Meteor Lake architecture only, except for the ones that are Raptor Lake R or U, or Raptor Lake UP and P as well. I mean, how could they possibly make it more confusing than the old way, though? But anyway, just take a closer look at this. I'm sure it'll all make perfect sense very soon. Oh, and they're also getting rid of that annoying generation designation with the Core and Core Ultra parts, because who really needed to know the difference between a 2nd gen i7 2600K and a 13th gen i5 13600K anyway? Get the i7. Probably faster. Speaking of faster CPUs, AMD does apparently plan to launch those at some point, if recent database entries from Einstein at Home and LHC at Home are any indication. The distributed computing platforms each showed results from what appears to be Family 26 designated AMD engineering sample CPUs, which would mean Zen 5 based parts. They are both 8-core, 16-thread CPUs, and the LHC at Home entry also listed a Radeon RX 7900 GPU, as in one without an XT or XTX. It's too early to say if this was a misidentified part in the database, or if AMD is working on one more RX 7900 for their top-tier GPU stack, but it does seem like there's at least a 7800 XT coming to market at some point, since ASRock filed to set up 2 SKUs for sale via the Eurasian Economic Commission, the Phantom Gaming RX 7800 XT in black and white, with a 16 gig VRAM configuration. And it's possible that this is the GPU that will power that card. A Navi 32 multi-chip module, apparently, which was just casually shown in the B-roll footage of a Forbes interview with AMD CEO Lisa Su, as discovered by Huang and Fu on Twitter. It seems to match the rumored measurements and 4MCD arrangement for Navi 32, which likely indicates that the RX 7800 series will sport a 256-bit memory bus and 60 compute units max. Hopefully they launch these new GPUs soon, so people can continue to not buy them. Sometimes after the full-course meal that is tech news, we like to fill in the corners with some lighter fare, and hence tech briefs. Lighter fare might be a misnomer for this big boy though. In the face of the worst GPU sales trends in 10 to 20 years, ZOTAC asked, what if we could make the most expensive GPU even bigger and more expensive? Enter the RTX 4090 PGF, measuring more than 38 centimeters or 15 inches long, giggity, with white and black and RGB trim, a 24+4 phase VRM design, and a 525 watt TDP. My only complaint is that the $2,500 US card only has one 12VH power connector, and I guess I'd like to know what PGF stands for too. It's a China exclusive card, so perhaps it stands for the People's GPU. Fuck off. Amidst the Computex coverage that took place early in June came this news. Gigabyte motherboards, and a heck of a lot of them, essentially ship with a firmware backdoor thanks to the more recent trend of motherboards automatically installing their crappy software packages along with Windows. Boards using the UEFI firmware in question will phone home to auto-install new UEFI firmware once Windows is loaded and an internet connection is provided, even creating a new Windows user account in the background, unbeknownst to the PC's actual user. This raised multiple security concerns and potential exploitation pathways when it was revealed by security firm Eclysium, both due to Gigabyte's less than stellar cybersecurity measures in recent years, and because of the vast array of boards affected, going all the way back to Intel 400 and 500 series chipsets and AMD 600 series AM4 boards and newer. Fortunately, patched BIOSes are available as of about 2 weeks ago, and the Eclysium article includes a PowerShell script that you can run to check your system, as well as a full list of affected models. And yeah, basically, if you have a Gigabyte motherboard and you haven't yet, you should update your BIOS. AI is usually in the news in some shape or form these days, and I would like to cover it regularly and from other angles than this new AI stuff really sucks for GPU prices. I find that AI discussion is usually about how it will solve all of our problems, or about how it will end the world and kill all our jobs in short notice. Or sometimes it's just some cute little wacky thing. Let's go doom and gloom for today. Samsung appears to be developing an ultra-large AI system with the help of all available GPU resources. All of them. Could it be another ChatGPT-like clone based on a large language model for having silly conversations with? Or is it a misanthropic superintelligence that has already gained sentience and malevolent control over data centers and IT infrastructure the world over? Who knows? Could go either way. Fortunately for us, there are multiple massive tech corps working on this stuff the world over. So eventually, one will flip that switch from good to evil. I assume it's a big switch. That's how AI works, right? Reddit has made a big switch in recent weeks as CEO Steve Huffman has been defending their choice to essentially do away with third-party apps by charging for API access that those apps depend on. This would cost Apollo, for example, one of the most popular third-party Reddit apps, $1.7 million per month, or $20 million per year, leaving them with no choice but to shut down. The issue has ballooned into a larger debate about the website's principles and what is worth sacrificing in the administrative team's push towards profitability, which just happens to coincide with their plans to go public in the second half of this year, which would undoubtedly make the administrative team and CEO Steve Huffman very rich. Of course, Reddit's draw has always been its community, and the community-moderated subs of all varieties that cater to different tastes. Huffman's refusal to work with third-party app developers quickly turned to a mod-led protest and blackout of many popular subs, which led Huffman to dismiss the protest in an internal memo saying, "Like all blow-ups on Reddit, this one will pass as well," which has led to extensions of the protests and blackouts, which brings us to the end of this week when Huffman compared the mods to landed gentry while floating ideas about changing the rules so mods could be removed more easily. That will surely quiet the angry mobs, just silence their leaders. Works every time. But that is all the time that I have for today, you guys. So there you have it, tech news for the week. And if you liked it, click that like button or leave me a comment down below. While you're down there, all the articles I talked about today are linked in the video's description if you're interested. You could also check out my store at paulshardware.net for high quality merchandise, t-shirts, hoodies, beer sets, and more. Subscribing to my channel is always a good call too. Thanks again, everyone, and we'll see you next week.